The main clue that we have to work with this question is actually the presence of this relative clause after the underlined portion. It starts with who. Who initially promoted certain things to female consumers? So this becomes a question of modifiers. What is this relative clause actually supposed to modify? See, who is a relative pronoun which refers to people. So we just need to check whether this relative clause is properly referring back to a person or people. Now in answer choice A, we have demonstrators and publicists, which perfectly works because they are people and they are the ones who can promote something to female consumers. So we can hold on to answer choice A. Now in B and C, before the relative clause, we actually have manufacturers and companies. Now manufacturers could be people, but companies definitely are not. So we cannot use this relative clause to refer back to companies, so B and C can be eliminated. Now we should not be quick to eliminate answer choice D because what we actually have is a prepositional phrase. I know that the noun that is immediately before the who is products, but we should always be mindful of prepositional phrases because it says demonstrators and publicists of their products. So if we have a prepositional phrase followed by a relative clause, the relative clause could be referring back to any of the nouns, and that totally depends on the logic of the relative clause. So for example, consider these two sentences. The box of toffees which were made of caramel is empty. The box of toffees which was made of cardboard is empty. Now both these sentences are perfectly fine because this is a prepositional phrase, the box of toffees. Now we should not be quick to judge that the noun that is immediately before the which is toffees, and toffees are made of caramel, so that makes sense, so this must be the right one. But that's not the case. As I said, in a prepositional phrase, the relative clause can refer back to any noun, and that depends on the logic of the relative clause. So, which were made of caramel is referring back to toffees, and which was made of cardboard is referring back to the box. So, in the same way, if we look at D, the who is actually referring back to the demonstrators and publicists and not the products. So, we can definitely hold on to this choice as well. But in E, we do not have a prepositional phrase here. We rather have demonstrate and publicize, which are written in verb forms. And the only noun that is present here before the relative clause is products. And the logic of the relative clause would definitely not apply to products. E goes off. Between A and D, it's actually pretty simple to apply the rule of concision and see that A is putting across the meaning in a very straightforward fashion and D is making the construction very wordy. When you compare these two, A reads product demonstrators and publicists, whereas D says demonstrators and publicists of their products. So A is very straightforward in that regard. But there is also one difference that can be caught here, as and to be. And those words are actually tied to the word employed. So is it employed as or employed to be? So what should I say? John was employed as a software engineer or John is employed to be a software engineer? Obviously, John is employed as a software engineer, correct? So we can get rid of D. A itself is the right answer.